Hello guys and welcome back. I am ElfNet Gaming, and in this video I'm going to kind of touch on the Baofeng UV-82 programming with CHIRP. CHIRP is not a favorite program that I use, that I like to use to program these radios. I like to use the actual factory OEM CPS, and I'll point out why during the video. Now, before we get into the program, there are some things you're going to have to be aware of here. One of these things you need to be aware of is you obviously need a radio. You're going to need the programming cable, which is typically a USB cable. It's of the Kenwood style, the bi-pin programming cable. It can be a Baofeng cable. It can be one of those multi cables where you change the ends out on it, whatever. That works. It's FTDI stuff, USB cable, and you need to have the right drivers. For whatever reason, Windows 10 does not like the OEM CPS for this radio. It keeps saying there are files missing or not registered, which they are registered and they are on the computer. It just does not like it. So the OEM CPS video that I was going to make will be made on a laptop that I have that does work with this program, and that will come at a later time. I don't know, maybe later today or tomorrow. Just don't know yet. But for now, we're just going to do it in CHIRP and struggle through it. Now, forgive me, I do not know what all the terminology is in this program. So, you'll also obviously need a copy of CHIRP, and a link to that will be in the description below where you can get that. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Now, when you get CHIRP loaded in, installed, wherever you want to install it on your computer, you got to do some initial stuff here to read the radio. Of course, you're going to plug in the USB programming cable. You're going to make note of the COM port that it's on. That's Computer 101. That's not what I'm making a video about, okay? If you need to know how to find out what COM port something's on when you plug it in, there are videos on YouTube for that. Alright, radio. You'll see these up here: File, Edit, View, Radio. You want to download from radio, and it will give you this screen here. On my computer, the USB cable is plugged into COM5. Yours might be COM20 something, or COM6, or whatever. The vendor, you want to select Baofeng, unless you've got some other type of radio here. And there's a list of them. And the model we're doing is UV-82. With the Baofeng, we've got all these other models here that you can program, and you simply, if I plug the radio in, always turn the radio off, plug it in, plug the cable in, turn the radio on, and maybe it won't transmit or whatever, and hit OK. Now, what it's doing is it's downloading the data from the radio. I've already reprogrammed this radio with some test channels, frequencies. So, I do want to make a kind of a PSA announcement here about these little Baofeng radios. And I've seen a lot of videos promoting these radios for the wrong thing. Also, when you're done downloading it, unplug the radio or turn the radio off, because it's going to transmit and you don't want that. Anyway, back to this PSA. There are a lot of videos promoting this radio for off-roading, airsoft, paintball, prepping, things like that. And that's fine. It's a good radio for that if you have the appropriate license. It is important to note that the UV-82 does in fact have FCC Part 90 certifications, meaning if you have a business band license where you can use red dot, purple dot, brown dot, yellow dot, or a community repeater, or whatever your job's radio license frequency is, it's perfectly okay with that. If you don't have that, then unfortunately you're stuck with having to get an amateur radio license. Now, it is perfectly legal to monitor and listen. In fact, I've recommended this radio to rail fans here and there over a police scanner because the receivers in these can be a lot better than what police scanners have. Excuse me. But if you don't have a license for amateur radio or LMR Part 90, don't transmit, okay? No, you're not allowed by the letter of the rules to use them on FRS, GMRS, or MURS. I know people do it, and you know what? It's your radio's your money. You can do what you want with them, but it's not technically legal to. But at the end of the day, like I just said, your radio, your money, do what you want. We're just trying to help you stay from creating a possible issue financially with the government. The FCC fines are not cheap. So anyway, back to the radio. What you have here, we're in the memories, range 0 to 27, special channels, show empty, and properties. Special channels is what we got on the screen now. Showing the empties will show all the empty channels. There's 127 or 28 of them. Properties isn't showing anything. Up here, again, file. You can create a new file. You can open an existing. You can open a stock configuration. This is kind of neat, where we have different things like the Europe and PMR. You've got marine channels, NOAA, UK business radio, simple, like 60 meters. Why would 60 meter channels be there? US railroad frequencies, US MERS, US, and it's got these frequencies here, right? For FRS, GMRS, they're not exactly legal to use with this radio. The marine band, I believe, is. I think they've started allowing it. Or I don't know much about the marine band. I don't do much with the marine channel. MERS, there's some preloaded stuff. You can open the recent images. You could save or save as, import, export, close and quit, edit, of course, cut, copy, all that stuff. View columns. This will tell you what columns are shown up here. Now, all of them are selected. Alright. You don't need skip. But radio, read from the radio, write to the radio, import from a data source. You can import from repeater book and radio reference, etc. And more of this stock config. And then there's a help section. Alright. Now, initially reading the radio, if you buy a new radio, you're going to have a channel list, probably of about 16 channels or so, with mixed VHF and UHF, and they're going to be factory test and tune channels. These channels or frequencies should not, under any circumstances, be used out of the box on any of these radios, because there's a mix of government band, ham band, and business band, and other things there that shouldn't be on unless you're authorized to be on them. So it's very important to reprogram the radio. Even the small 888s and things like that, they need to be reprogrammed. Don't use them right out of the box. I know it's easy and simple, but please don't. You'll get in trouble. You never know who you're going to interfere with. It's just not worth it. The steep FCC fine is just not worth it. So anyway, you have location, frequency, name, tone mode, tone squelch, DTCS code, DTCS RX code, DTCS POL. I don't know what that means. If somebody can help me with that, please. Cross mode, I'm thinking it's tone per tone. Not sure. I don't think this radio does crossband repeat. Duplex mode. Well, duplex mode. Negative, plus, odd split or off. The offset you can put in here, whatever your frequency offset is. The mode, narrow FM or FM. If you're going into the LMR band, you want to be in FM, narrow FM. If you're in the amateur band, you want FM. Power, low and high. Low, I believe, is 1 watt. High is 4 or 5 watts or something. Okay. And the same goes. And I've got in on location 5 here a test repeater. There's no actual repeater. I just used it as a test channel. It's tone per tone. It's got a +5 offset, meaning it's going in on 469.5 and the repeater you're receiving on 464.5. Your tone and tone squelch. I believe that the tone, this is your transmit tone. Okay. 88.5, and this is your receive tone. This is your transmit DPL code and your receiver DPL code. And you can select what modes you want. Like on here I have tone, so it's using 88.5. Here I can go DTCS, and it will use number 23 of the DCS code. Alright. So that's about all with this area here. We go to settings. We got our basic settings, as you can see. Carrier squelch can be set, it defaults at 5, I set mine to 2. Battery saver, this is a ratio, off to 1:4 ratio. Backlight timeout 5 seconds, can be changed. Keypad beep, tick box, timeout timer 30 seconds. Display mode for A and B is name, you can have it channel or frequency if you want it. Standby LED color, RX LED, TX LED. These are customizable between nothing, blue, orange, and purple. Roger beep on transmit, enable Roger beep RX, off, display A or B. Right. Advanced settings. Vox sensitivity, mine is off. If you have a Vox headset, 5 would probably be your norm. Dual watch I have turned off. Turn that on if you want it. Dual watch transmit priority is off, but you can change which radio the priority defaults to. Alarm mode, sight, tone, and code. Not really sure there. Voice prompt off, English and Chinese. Scan resume is 2 CO and SE. Somebody can tell us what that means down below. It'd be nice, because I just leave it defaulted to TO. Easy channel lockout prevents you from transmitting if a channel is busy. This is good if you're using a community repeater or something like that, where other users are on a different tone slot transmitting. You don't want to transmit over them. Auto key lock, when you turn it on, the keypad is locked. There's a button on the keypad, the pound sign button. You hold it down to unlock it. Broadcast FM radio feature is enabled. This, of course, the button on the side, the F, will enable that. You can receive FM radio. Squelch tail elimination, HT to HT. I enable that because that squelch tail on these are horrible, especially if you're using a Motorola radio with a squelch tail eliminate on a repeater. 5 defaulted. STE repeater delay is off. This is in milliseconds, 100 to 1000. Reset menu is enabled. If this radio is going to be used by employees, you might want to disable this along with all menus. Disable that. Of course, there's probably some other stuff you want to disable as well, like channels that they're not authorized to use. Mine are enabled because it's my radio. VFO MR switching for the UV-82C only. This allows the VFO option on the official commercial version. The official commercial version is it's the same radio with a firmware that does not allow you to program it outside of the LMR band, basically. Single PTT 82C only. Both A and B would be one push to talk button. Other settings. Here's your power on messages and your band limits. Firmware, we're not worried about that. We're not worried about the 6 power on message 1 and 2. The power on message 1 is what shows up on the display when you turn the radio on. It defaults to welcome. I have ElfNet in. Here, you can set a second message if you want it. Power on message type, you can go full message, which will show 1 and 2, or just message 1. Alright. VHF lower and upper limits. These are in megahertz. You can set the limits. If you want it to just be an amateur-only radio, then you would set VHF to 144, 148. 144 low, 148 megahertz high. Enable, disable, transmit for that band. Same with UHF. 430 to 450 if you want it just to be an amateur radio, and easy peasy. Work mode. Default work mode display. I put it on A. I don't know why it was on B there. The VFO or MR mode. Frequency or channel. Do you want it in frequency mode or channel mode? Mine is in channel. Keypad lock by default turning on is off. The memory channel for display A. These are your default boot up memory channels. You can set them whatever. If you're in VFO mode, these are your default frequencies they start at per display. Here's the shift per display default, offset, power, bandwidth, PTT IDs, and tuning steps. These are all customizable, as you can see here. FM radio preset. When you hit the FM radio button, this is the frequency it's going to default to. What I've done was I put a frequency in that I know there's a station on instead of having to scroll up the band. Find it. I know there's a station here that is also an EAS station. So there's that. Dtmf settings. These are all your PTT ID codes, which you would set up over here. Default PTT ID 15. And over here there's 15. There's an ANI, an ANI ID. EOT is end of transmission. You go off, beginning of transmission, end of transmission, or do it on both. I don't use DTMF ANI. I use MDC 1200. This radio doesn't have MDC 1200, so I'm not going to worry about it. Do you want a side tone? Yes or no, side tone, ANI, dual transmitting, blah, blah, blah. The speed of the DTMF on and DTMF off, and a PTT ID delay. Service settings, I don't mess with this, and I wouldn't mess with this unless you have the proper equipment to adjust it. So I would leave it alone. And that's it for those settings and the memory. And when you get things set up how you want them, to program the radio, you just go back to the radio menu, upload to radio, make sure you're still on COM5 and you got the right radio. You'll take the radio, plug the radio back in, make sure the radio is turned off, plug it back in, turn the radio on, and hit OK. And this thing will start writing data into the radio. And the reason I say unplug the radio and turn it off is because if you leave some of these cables plugged in, the radio will stay transmitting, and it's not good for the radio. Alright, the data write is done. You turn the radio off, unplug it, put the rubber back on the side, and turn it on and make sure. And there it is. And there you have it. It's working now. So yeah, that's the UV-82 Baofeng programmed in CHIRP. Kind of a rundown. If anybody knows what DTCS POL means and define these cross modes and other things in the video that I just don't know what they are, please put it down below in the comments for me so I know. I will be making a video, like I said before, I will be making a video on the OEM CPS, which is what I actually use to program these things with. When I get around to that, I can't do it on this computer. But anyway, until then, if you found the video helpful, give it a thumbs up. Comment below on some stuff that I missed, stuff that I don't know about this program. And please use your radios responsibly. If you have them, use them responsibly, only where you're allowed to use them. And with that, that's the end of the video. I am Elf at ElfNet Gaming, and I will see you guys later.